the plea for the enhancement of compensation to the victims from 750 to 7,700 crore rupees. Any word on that?
Right now, there's no word on that. Today was particularly the order on the enhancement of charges, the harsher punishment the CBI has been wanting against the accused, including UCIL chairman Keshav Mahindra. The enhancement of compensation will be taken up later, though the arguments have happened along with the enhancement of charges. Right now, a very important judgment coming out from the Supreme Court dismissing the curative petition. CBI will now have to face a lot of tough questions, but I think it's clear that all the petitions that are pending in Madhya Pradesh court, the Sessions Court there, will not be impacted by this decision.
Right, Tavleen.
The court saying that the explanation given by the CBI was not satisfactory.
Right, Tavleen, do stay with us on this big breaking story. Meanwhile, let me go across to Deshdeep Saxena, our correspondent joining us from Bhopal. Deshdeep, a big setback really for the people, for the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy, this order coming in today.
Indeed, a big setback for the gas victims, and the immediate reaction of the victims is like, this is not done. Yet another instance of injustice. They were in fact hoping a lot from Supreme Court. You know, the government of India wanted the charges to be converted under Section 304 Part 2, and the gas victims who wanted to intervene, they said that the accused of the Bhopal gas tragedy should be charged under Section 302, that is murder. And the Supreme Court has even rejected the curative petition. So indeed a big setback for the gas victims of Bhopal.
Absolutely. So many expectations were pinned on today's order. Let me go across to Deepak Vajpayee. He's standing right outside the Supreme Court. Deepak, tell us, give us all the information you have on the Supreme Court's order.
Well, very interesting, in fact, because this was the last legal option available to CBI. Now, this curative petition has been dismissed by the Supreme Court on the plea that the CBI had actually suppressed facts and they were false in the affidavit that was filed. But yet it has also let out a way that there is a way out that Supreme Court has shown to the CBI. It said that, of course, it can approach the lower court and it can actually file a plea to enhance the punishment. And, of course, the new section can be added by the lower court. The order which has been passed by the Supreme Court will have no bearing on lower court's decision. But of course, this was the last legal option available to CBI, and with the curative petition being dismissed by the Supreme Court, now CBI has only one option to go back to the lower court.
Right. Essentially, Deepak, from all the information that we're getting, it does seem like the Supreme Court is actually lashing out at the CBI for A, acting so late in this case, and B, not putting up good arguments in favor of the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy, also against all those convicted in this case. So, in a way, the Supreme Court is actually questioning the role that the CBI has played in this entire case, isn't it?
Well, the role and the intent itself of the CBI has been questioned by the Supreme Court. It has lashed out on the CBI, saying that A, why did it take so long a time to file a curative petition in this case? And B, it has also said that the affidavit that was filed by the CBI was faulty, and it also withdrew complaint against the then government. So there are a lot of questions that have been raised by the Supreme Court on the way this case was investigated, the way this case was actually taken up in the court by the agency. So CBI, of course, has to do a lot of answering on the questions raised by the Supreme Court.
That's right. Deepak Vajpayee, do stay with us. Meanwhile, this is a big story that we're getting, two big simultaneous stories that we are tracking. One order, one judgment coming in from the Supreme Court, one on Amar Singh case, one on this particular case. Of course, a big setback for Amar Singh on one hand, for the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy on the other. And what the Supreme Court seems to be suggesting is all due to the delayed action of the CBI, that the case hasn't really been able to give justice to the victims of the CBI in this case. In fact, what the court really said, while dismissing the curative petition, it said that the CBI did not give any satisfactory explanation on why they filed the petition after a gap of 14 years. The Supreme Court also terming the petition as fallacious and wrong. This is certainly something very strong line that the Supreme Court has taken against the CBI's intent, questioning the CBI's role and intent in this particular case. In fact, Deshdeep Saxena is still with us from Bhopal. Deshdeep, we were talking about this case and how a lot of hopes were pinned on today's order by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, as I told you earlier, the gas victims here are really disappointed. They are a disappointed lot. They say that yet again, this is they were hoping a lot from Supreme Court. They were hoping that the charges would be converted from 304 Part A, 304A, that in 1996 Supreme Court Chief Justice had converted charges into 304A, and the whole the case had become like a case of road accident, and they were hoping that the government of India wanted it to be converted into 304 Part 1, and the gas victim even wanted some more severe charges, and they wanted it to be converted into Section 302, that is of murder. And now the gas victims wanted the union officials of Union Carbide and all accused to be tried under Section 302 of IPC, that is murder. And here the Supreme Court has even rejected the petition. So obviously the gas victims in Bhopal are really a disappointed lot, and they are going to hold a press conference at 12:30 and would come out with their plan.
Right. Deshdeep, do stay with us. Satynath Sarangi is in fact joining us now. He's the president for the Bhopal Group for Information and Action. Mr. Sarangi, definitely you must be a disappointed man today. Mr. Sarangi, are you with us? Mr. Sarangi, are you with us?
We think that...
All right, it seems we'll get back in touch with Satynath Sarangi in just a bit. Let me just once again try and go back to him. Mr. Satynath Sarangi, can you hear us? All right, we'll try and get back to him. Seems like a lot of people vying for his reaction over there. But Deshdeep, we are talking about how this whole, case has come back to square one. What the court had said earlier on in 1996, and the order today, really no change. So, and also the plea for the enhancement of compensation is still pending. The court hasn't even heard that. So for the victim, it's like disappointment on two levels. Compensation not being enhanced and the victims not being able to get justice. All right, we've lost the Deshdeep Saxena over there. But to elaborate more on this order that we are getting today from the Supreme Court, essentially the judgment has pushed this entire case back to square one, right from where it started back in 1996, when the Supreme Court bench of Chief Justice of India A.M. Ahmadi and Justice S.B. Majumdar reduced that charge of a rash to a rash and negligent act under Section 304A, and the Supreme Court now today upholding the verdict from 1996. All right, Indra Jaising, senior lawyer, is now with us. Advocate Jaising, if you can share with us your views on the Supreme Court's order. Essentially, the case is back to square one.
I would disagree with that. What I would say is that the 1996 judgment had closed the door to enhancement of charges, and today's judgment opens that door. So there is every possibility that the charges against the accused will stand enhanced if the Sessions Court comes to the conclusion that on the evidence on record, a case under 304 Part 2 or 300 is made out.
Right. But Advocate Jaising, what the Supreme Court has said today is that it has directly questioned the role and intent of the CBI in this case, asking the CBI why it took a long time of 14 years to file this curative petition. What would you say to the CBI's, action or inaction in this case?
Well, I would say that the CBI proceeded on the basis that the 1996 judgment was binding on them. I would say that 14 years later, the Supreme Court says that it's not binding. Well, if that's the law, that's the law. There's nothing to stop them from continuing with the prosecution in that case.
Right. Also, Advocate Jaising, could you elaborate a little bit more on why you are saying that, this order of today essentially opens doors for a harsher punishment? How would that be?
Because the Supreme Court has said that the 1996 judgment did not stand in the way of enhancing charges if evidence had come on record that the accused had knowledge that the plant was unsafe. and with full knowledge of the fact that the plant was unsafe, if they operated the plant, then they would be guilty of 304 Part 2, that is culpable homicide, not amounting to murder, or culpable homicide.
Right.
So there is every possibility that charges under those sections will be framed. We have to wait and see.
That's another ray of hope, Advocate Jai Singh, for the victims of the gas tragedy. Thank you so much for joining us. In fact, Rashida B is now joining us, one of the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy. Rashida B, आप हमें बताइए, आपके क्या रिएक्शन है सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऑर्डर का?
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले ने आज भोपाल के गैस पीड़ितों को दोबारा मारा है। ये बहुत ही शर्मनाक फैसला है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कंपनियों का सपोर्ट लेते हुए, सरकार के पक्ष लेते हुए ये फैसला लिया है। हमें बहुत उम्मीदें थी कि हमारे देश का सबसे बड़ा न्यायालय है जो हमें इंसाफ देगा और हमारे जख्मों पर मरहम लगाते हुए कम से कम 20 साल की सजा मिलेगी, लेकिन उसी सजा को 2 साल की सजा को जो उन्होंने बरकरार रखते हुए फैसला दिया है, ये बहुत ही शर्मनाक फैसला है और ये बहुत बड़ा धक्का है पीड़ितों को। और हिंदुस्तान की सरकार किस तरह से मुंह दिखाएगी दुनिया को, कैसे न्यायालय दुनिया के सामना करेगा, जो कि अमेरिका जैसी सरकार ने उसके देश के लोग मारे गए तो उनने एक दूसरे देश में घुस के कानूनों को बाला ताक रखते हुए उसामा बिन लादेन को मार के अपने देश में ले आया। लेकिन हमारे देश के लोग, एक आदमी कंपनी मार के चली गई और आज 27 साल बाद जब सुनवाई हुई तो सुनवाई में हमारे देश की सबसे बड़ी न्यायालय ने आज हमें ये फैसला सुनाया है जो कि दोबारा गैस कांड हुआ है और लोग।
राशिदा बी जी, आप हमें ये बताइए, आपको क्या लगता है किसकी गलती की वजह से ऐसा हुआ है जो विक्टिम्स को न्याय नहीं मिल पाया है?
ये हमारे देश की गलती है, ये हमारे न्यायालय की गलती है। हमारे न्यायालय में सारे दस्तावेज सबूत पेश होने के बाद, सारे सिद्ध होने के बावजूद हमारे देश के न्यायालय और इंसाफ नहीं सुना पाया, उन्हें सजा नहीं सुना पाया। तो ये हमारे देश का कानून बिका हुआ कानून लगता है, बिका कानून है। हमारा देश का न्यायालय बिकी हुई है, हमारे देश की सरकार बिकी हुई है।
जो सरकार से मुआवजा मिलना था उसके बारे में भी कुछ नहीं हुआ है, 750 करोड़ ही है, उसकी भी हियरिंग नहीं हुई है लेकिन होनी है। क्या आपको उससे कुछ उम्मीदें हैं?
जो वकील है
राशिदा भी, क्या आप हमारे साथ हैं? जी, मैं कह रही हूँ कि मुआवजे की जो बात है अभी उसकी भी हियरिंग पेंडिंग है कोर्ट में, आपको उससे कुछ उम्मीदें हैं?
वही हम कह रहे हैं, इससे अब कोई उम्मीद नहीं रही क्योंकि ये जो फैसला हुआ है आज, जो सजा का फैसला हुआ कि 2 साल की सजा को स्थगित रखा गया है, तो मुआवजे पे भी हमें क्या उम्मीद होगी? कोई उम्मीद।
राशिदा भी, हम आपको एक बात बताएं, अभी हम एक लॉयर से बात कर रहे थे, वो कह रही थी कि ये जो आज का ऑर्डर है ये एक्चुअली में दरवाजे खोल देता है कि सजा बढ़ भी सकती है, क्योंकि कोर्ट ने कहा है 1996 में जो वर्डिक्ट आया था उसको मद्देनजर बिल्कुल नहीं रखा गया है और ये एक नया ही ऑर्डर है और अगर सेशंस कोर्ट में जाएंगे तो जरूर सजा बढ़ सकती है। क्या आपको ऐसा लगता है कि सजा बढ़ेगी?
कोर्ट ने सरकार की याचिका को रद्द कर दिया, सीबीआई की याचिका को रद्द कर दिया है और कोई सुनवाई नहीं की गई है। तो और जो अहमदी का फैसला था उसे रद्द नहीं किया है, तो इससे क्या उम्मीद हमें लगती है? कोई उम्मीद नहीं लगती कि कोई सजा बढ़ाई जाएगी और कोई भी सुनवाई होगी, अब नहीं लगता है। सबकी हमारे देश की सबसे बड़े न्यायालय, उच्च न्यायालय जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट है, वहां से ये फैसला आया है, तो अब तो हमारी उम्मीदें खत्म हो रही हैं और हम इस लड़ाई को आगे लड़ेंगे और जमीनी लड़ाई के साथ अपना हक और इंसाफ लेने की कोशिश करेंगे। लेकिन आज
जी, राशिदा भी शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए। मीनवाइल
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्यूरेटिव पिटीशन डिसमिस कर दिया है, क्या कहा है?
सीबीआई, पहले हिंदी में बोलते हैं। हाँ, सीबीआई की जो क्यूरेटिव पिटीशन फाइल की थी, सीबीआई ने जो अपनी क्यूरेटिव पिटीशन सुप्रीम कोर्ट में फाइल की थी उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने डिसमिस कर दिया है। उन्होंने बोला ये पिटीशन 14 साल बाद फाइल की थी और इसके अंदर कोई भी ऐसा ग्राउंड नहीं लिखा जिससे कि क्यूरेटिव जुरिडिक्शन में जो 1996 जजमेंट दिया था उसको ठीक किया जा सके। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने यह भी बोला है कि 1996 जजमेंट जो दिया था, जिसमें उन्होंने जो मटेरियल के बेसिस के ऊपर जो उस समय सीबीआई ने प्रोड्यूस किया था, ये कहा था कि एक चार्ज 304 पार्ट ए के अंदर नेग्लिजेंस के ऊपर बनता है, वो जजमेंट में कोई गलती नहीं थी और अगर कोई बाद में अगर ट्रायल कोर्ट ने इसको गलत समझा है तो वो जो सेशंस कोर्ट है अपील और रिवीजन में इसको ठीक कर सकती थी। तो अब जो रेमेडी है वो ये है कि जो रिवीजन और अपील सीबीआई और स्टेट की सेशंस कोर्ट के सामने पेंडिंग है उनको वो परसू करें और वहीं पर वो हायर चार्ज के बारे में चार्ज बनता है 304 पार्ट 2 के अंदर, इसके ऊपर वो आर्ग्यूमेंट्स करेंगे। इसके बारे में जहां तक विक्टिम्स का कहना है, उनको ये लगता है कि 1996